Matt Hill, and we are excited to be answering some more questions, frankly, getting some more info from y'all and sharing what we have. So hopefully get everybody's claim further along. So let's see what we got here as far as questions go. The first one is coming from Ivan. He says, I have S1, L5, L4 arthritis and compression. 1992 x-rays show at exit examination. I did not have back problems prior. I've not been able to get a copy of the entrance exam. I did not see my C file. I believe this is Q. I don't have a claim for my back. It's noted most likely born with problem. What should I do? Well, you don't have a Q claim if you didn't have a prior claim.
Right.
So the first thing you need to do is file your claim, get yourself service connected. If you did have a prior claim, then you need to go back. Arthritis is a chronic condition. If it's started in service,
right,
then under the chronic condition regs, which is 38 CFR 3.307, should be under there. It would say that should be service connected automatically because it's chronic condition. But if you did not have a claim back then, your only claim is as of when you make it now.
And the one thing we tell all of y'all, please, 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 if you think you have a claim, file it. Don't worry about getting everything to go with it. Just file the claim. And that starts the date of your entitlement to benefits. If you don't file it, you're really, really hurting yourself.
Yeah, that's money of yours, VA.
Yeah, you don't need to have everything. You don't need to have anything. Just file the claim first.
Thinking thing. If a vet is rated 100% before MH was approved and then rated 100% for MH alone, is it close to impossible that vet could ever be reduced because any reduction would not change overall rating? No. You're talking with the VA here. I mean, in this hypo, this is a major disability. You have had disabilities that combine to 100, a separate that is 100. So you should be getting above 100, which is SMCS at least. But this is the VA. Can they reduce you? Yeah. Is it illegal? Most likely, but they still can do it.
It doesn't say that he's permanent and total either. And remember, the VA targets high ratings. If they give somebody a high rating and it's not permanent and total, the first thing they do is put a reminder to have you reviewed, usually within a year. So check on that as well.
Yeah. Go to your appointments. Make sure you're continuing to treat. Okay.
Right.
Jason, in 2005, granted 50% for PTSD. 2017, it was increased to 70. I did not ask for an increase. Total now is 80, which is static. If I ask for increase, is my rating protected? I have not worked in over 2 years. It is not protected, but if you haven't worked in over 2 years, due in part or in total to the PTSD, who cares? File that. I mean, you're leaving
a lot of money on the table.
$20-some thousand a year, I think, on the table.
Right.
So you need to file that.
And that's an example of, you had 50%, you didn't ask for an increase. That's at VA looking again to see if they can reduce you. And lucky for you, they had to raise you.
Yeah, that's a hell of a hint. If they're looking to reduce you and they actually raise you, they ain't going to raise you all the way you should be raised.
No.
So if you got a raise on just a file review is what they did for a reduction, you forget about being protected. You need to go for the whole rating.
Right.
All right. Kids Ed, what exactly, it's good to see you again, Kids Ed, what exactly does it mean on the VBA 200996 decision review request higher level reform, where it says a higher level review may not be requested for review of a higher level review? Okay, so let's go back. You file a claim, it denies some or all the benefits you want. You have 3 ways you can go. You can file a supplemental claim
with new evidence,
new and relevant evidence. You can file a higher level review, or you can go to the board. We need to talk about the board here. So you say you go higher level review. Well, if that's denied, then your options are then limited because you can't file another higher level review on top of a higher level review. From that point, you have to file a supplemental claim or go directly to the board.
But what's confusing is often you will file, particularly we will file for a higher level review. And at that level, they will find that there was a duty to assist or a problem with the initial evaluation. So they actually do another initial evaluation. And so if you don't like that decision, you would be filing a higher level review, but it would be to what they call a supplemental claim. And you find this on the rating sheet. On the rating sheet, it will say, veteran filed a higher level review, but we found that there was a duty to assist or that there was a need to reevaluate the initial claim. And therefore, this is a new claim, initial claim. and that you would file a higher level review to. So it is somewhat confusing.
And actually, we didn't read his full question, which also is even more nuanced. I asked and received high level review about effective date for an approved claim for SMC L1/2, but then from these Q&As, I learned that the rating should be R1. May I ask for a higher level review for R1 on the decision that granted SMC L1/2, even though I already had a higher level review about the effective date? Those are two different issues. So yes, you should. Would the VA screw it up? Strong chance. But yeah, you should be able to. If you have more evidence for the R1, I would consider maybe supplementing your file, putting that in, showing why it should be R1 at this point.
You mean file a supplemental complaint? Supplemental
claim, yeah. And then you could go higher level from there. But yes, those are two different issues, even though it's the same, same rating, if you will, effective date and higher rating.
And remember, if you do file a supplemental review, the VA is very likely to give you the effective date of that supplemental review. Appeal that because that's error. They're supposed to go back to the date you first applied for this that has been continuously appealed. Yeah. But they do that religiously, hoping you'll take it and go away.
Okay, thinking things again. How can we change the 90 waiting rule for evidence late at the board if we submit all our evidence when the claim is filed with the BVA? How can we change the 90 waiting rule for evidence lane? You can't change it. It's in the statute, and how it's written is totally bizarre. We thought the VA would make more sense out of it, and that you could just submit it when you, as you do, submit it with the appeal. They're not doing that. They're not. We've had cases where they did not accept that. They said the evidence was submitted, out of time or before it was supposed to be. So when you go into the evidence lane, when you take that appeal from the regional office, you go to the BVA and you want to submit evidence. You submit the appeal, and then they say, okay, now you have 90 days to submit your evidence.
Well, they don't tell you that. Every once in a while, you get a letter.
You're supposed to get a letter.
But I almost never get a letter. Almost never.
So you can't submit it with the appeal. You need to wait.
You can't?
Isn't that what he's saying?
How can we change something if we submit all our evidence when claim is... Well, if you're submitting it, sounds like it's going at the same time. Why is that wrong? Regardless, the way they trick you is there's a rating decision that you want to appeal to the board. And if you're putting in evidence and then appeal to the board, that evidence is not considered. You have to resubmit it.
Sorry, that's the accurate thing. There's that gap that I was trying to talk about. It's between, the claim is still live, but if you haven't submitted the actual appeal, then that evidence, it just goes in this black hole. And they purposely, they'll even point it out, say, hey, you submitted this evidence, but guess what? We're not considering it. And then it's, to the back of the line.
But in that case, it goes back to the regional office, and the regional office gets to consider it. So you file a supplemental claim and say, this was not considered by the board, please. And so your claim is still alive. Don't drop it. And then continue on up to the board.
But you just spent 3 years.
I know.
So
much for a vet-friendly system.
Right. Kenny S., are there dedicated VLJs at the BVA for different paths available for the veteran? So the paths are worked independently of each other. Maybe a video on how it's supposed to work. Thank you. This is a moving target, Kenny. They originally did have VLJs saying, okay, these guys are just handling the old cases, just handling the legacy cases, VA Form 9 cases. And then they had another group that was just supposed to handle the new AMA cases. Well, it turns out they told Congress, or Congress told them, that all the old cases have to be worked for. So everybody's working the old cases, and then only the expedite cases of the AMA. So unfortunately, there is not difference. But you know what? This is the BVA. So I can find out in a couple months this actually changed. But that's what we've been told right now.
Yeah, those things change like that. We never know.
Vet Forever, 61-year-old, received 100% P&T 1222. Rating decision has 1 onset error, 20K, and 3 rating errors. Leave it alone or do an HL appeal while fresh and get back pay and more cushion in case VA tries to reduce. If we're talking 20K, we're appealing that. That's
typical VA. You've had a claim pending and they want to give you the December of 22. Right. That's ridiculous. So yes, you want to apply for an earlier effective date and the others if you have good evidence for them as well.
So Carol and I often disagree on filing claims, not filing claims once you've had 100%. One thing we are lockstep on is if you have an open claim, you get a decision, that decision is wrong and there's more benefits on the table, you appeal it and take that.
Right.
My concern comes when you come in from, out of the woods and come back into the VA and you file for something and you got to say, is this really worth it? Because I have 100%. She and I disagree on that. But if you have a claim like this,
Yeah.
and it's obvious to you, you have an error and they should be paying you that much in back pay, go for it. Okay. And as far as the other 3 rating errors, since you're appealing that, I'd appeal those too.
And remember, you're in luck because I don't know what date that came out, but it's got to be within 30 days. So you want to file the CAR higher level review. The CAR higher level review has to be filed within 30 days of when this rating decision was released. And so you want to make sure you file it right away and point out, this is an ongoing appeal that started on this date. I've had evidence from this date that I'm 100%, et cetera. Don't wait, because if you file that CAR, you're likely to get you have a good chance of getting a faster and better person to review it.
Carlos, let's see, 100% PNT I am. Should I keep filing for presumptive or just stop? I'm a Vietnam veteran with 3 Agent Orange diseases, and unless you tell me what those diseases are, I can't tell you. If they're, boils on your skin or basic diabetes, I don't know that I'd file them. If it's something significant like Parkinson's or a cancer.
Or peripheral neuropathy, where you're likely to end up with loss of use of hands or feet, those are things that you should continue to
file.
Yeah.
Thinking thing again, 2 Congress people proposed law to make MST-related claims payable back to discharge. How can we get this passed? You can start calling your congressmen,
senators.
and senators, and just let them know that this is important to you. There have been several very favorable MST bills over the last 10 years that were supported. I actually got to submit testimony for one, and they get kind of this small nucleus of support in the Senate and in the bigger Congress, but then it just fades away. So I would ask everyone to be calling from different districts. And
remember, we're 2 votes. You out there are a lot more votes. So if they hear from you, they're going to realize, hey, especially this year, there's an election year. So I would get on the phone and call them. And while you're there, please ask them what they're doing about this BVA backlog. Nothing's happening. They're just slowly plodding their way through.
Mm-hmm. Lonnie, I was not offered a CMP exam for bowel incontinence and was denied. Can I go after an earlier effective date? I was granted 100% bowel incontinence 3 years later with the same evidence. No, you can't, based on these facts. If they fail to give you a CMP exam, that's called failure of their duty to assist, which we think is kind of a myth, but that is not a basis for clear and unmistakable error for Q. So even though they were incompetent and they failed to do their duty back then, if that's all they did wrong, unfortunately, you can't go back unless you have appealed all the way since then.
I know. So at the time, you could have filed an appeal because they had a duty to assist and they didn't. If that claim is died, then the only thing you can find is if there's some legal error, like you put more evidence in within a year or something like that. But otherwise, you may be stuck with that.
Yeah. Shadow Chaser filed for GAD, CMP exam with VA doc. Okay, so for
general anxiety disorder,
CMP, that's the VA exam. DBQ, disability benefits questionnaire, shows up in VA health records, but does not reflect what we spoke about. Full of inaccuracies and contradictions. I am fully expecting denial. What is my recourse? If you have not been denied yet, I would submit a letter right now saying, I read the CMP exam. The doctor said, or it states that the doctor said X, Y, and Z. When I was with him, we had this conversation and we talked about, A, B, C, D, E, and it is not in there. And I believe this exam is inadequate. I would get that in as fast as possible because that would be evidence that you take to higher level review if you're denied, and then they should send it back for an adequate CMP exam.
Or if it says, the doctor said, I said this, and I did not, I said this. It's very important that you contradict anything that's wrong. And what's so important about what Matt said is, remember, if they deny you, you can go to the higher level review, but you can't put in your statement about what's wrong with the CMP exam. By doing it now, it's part of the initial decision.
Right. D-Dog-D. If I said I had digestive and stomach issues at my exit exam when I exited the military, do I need a nexus if my ex-wife says I had issues while we were married with digestion and she wrote a statement? You're still going to need a nexus. You're going to need a doctor to put 2 and 2 together, even though we can see that it's all there.
Remember, a nexus is a medical opinion. So you need a medical person to say what happened in the service is the cause of what's going on now.
HLR found FTA on both my appeals.
Failure to assist.
On both my appeal issues on 1-2. Stated letter coming as to what they plan to do to resolve. So far, nada. Is it more likely that they make a decision or send it back to the RO? They're going to send it back to the RO for the RO to do whatever the failure on the duty to assist was. We can't see it from there. I mean, usually if it's a C&P exam, they send you for another exam, or they have the examiner answer different questions.
So this is an example where you filed a higher level review, but they're actually going to do an initial review. So whatever decision you get from this, if it was reviewed, then a higher level review or the board is the next option.
Yeah. Denise denied connection for depression. Sorry, Dennis denied connection for depression. Wife noticed change as I returned from a deployment. She didn't want to write a letter saying so. She didn't want me to see it. Took me a couple years to file. After realizing I had an issue, asked for VA treatment. Should I go forward with supplemental claim if my wife is willing to write a letter and letter stating I changed, or do you have a better idea? File the claim. Get the letter from your wife.
Write a letter yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Congratulations.
That's great.
Thank you for letting us know. Antoine Lewis.
He's been a long time contributor here. Thanks so much, Antoine. It's good to see that. All right, James
Deese.
James Deese. My secondary claim for migraines, headaches, and tinnitus filed November 8th has been prepared for decision since November 2nd. Any idea how long before a decision? Hello, December. That's a vacation month right there.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you expecting? If you have it ready for a decision, that means they have all the medical and any C&P exam. So I would expect that to be soon.
Is this at the board or is this at the regional office? Because how would you know? Because usually that's what something the BVA would say, prepared for a decision.
Yeah.
The regional office, it's not so often the language. So
I don't think so. You filed it November 8th.
Oh, that's a new claim. Oh, okay. Sorry.
I would like to think that's done within 3 months. That's what they're saying. So that would give them February 7th, something like that. So that's when I'd be looking for it. If it goes 2 weeks beyond that, start complaining.
You can always call the 1-800 number and just ask
Yeah.
what's going on, but that's not unusual at all.
Bill Meyer, is a claim for tinnitus different from that of hearing loss?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tinnitus is the ringing in your ears. Hearing loss is the inability to hear.
Matt Kent, I just got a rating increase on my knees, but the VA did not increase my combined rating. What should I do? Well, first of all, you need to go to our calculator and you need to look at it, because sometimes, especially when the higher up you get, you might not get an increase. So let's say you were at 90% and you got a new rating for one of your other knees. So for your secondary knee at a 40% rating, that's going to round down to 90. Okay. So because basically your rating would be 94%, but it rounds down. So it depends on if the ratings combine and actually do give you a higher rating. I don't know. If they do, and they should have, then you need to ask for audit. Yeah.
But remember, it took me forever to realize with the VA, they don't add. They're not able to add. They combine. And so by combining, they take what percent of the body they've disabled so far, say it's 40%, and they say, oh, well, you only have 60% left. So the next time you get a rating, it's 10% times 60, which is 6, goes over to 40, 46 adds up to 50. But closely, you will be getting to it and rounding down.
Yeah. So just, we threw the hyperlinks, that calculator on there, and that'll help you kind of go through it. Out of sight, out of mind. The VA scheduled me for a second C&P exam. So 2 exams for 1 claim, mental health. Why did they do this, and should I be worried about the denial because of this? Is this for a supplemental claim? This is for a supplemental claim, excuse me.
So remember, they have 2 different types of mental health. One is only PTSD, and the other is pretty much everything else. So it may be that that's what they've done for you. I'm not really sure.
Or the first one royally screwed up and they want to send it back. I would get a copy of your first C&P exam right now and see what they said versus what your recollection of the actual interview is. and be prepared to talk about, or as we talked about earlier, write about any discrepancies.
And the other thing about the VA is sometimes they don't like it because it's too favorable to you,
Yeah,
in my opinion. True. And so they get their duty to sabotage comes in. And
it's
that's
duty
why they
to assist. That's what it's called.
And that's why they send it back.
But that's another reason why you want to copy that, because if it's favorable,
yeah,
you want to walk in. I'd take the paper in your hand, walk in and be like, hey, I already talked to a doctor about this. Must have been some mistake that they sent me to another one. Here's what he said. Do you want me to go over any of it? That's what I consider doing. Okay. MAD, HLR found FTA on both issues. I appealed on, nope, we already did this one. Let's go to the next one. DJ Rock, if I file for sleep apnea before possible law change, will I be grandfathered in under the old rules, even if the claim has not been adjudicated until after the law? You'll be grandfathered in up until the date that they change the law. The law itself is unclear as to whether you should get the more favorable rating schedule, which would be the current one, or they can put you on the new one. There's going to be litigation over that. But file it now so that you at least get the higher benefits right now, and then hopefully they get that right. If they did get it, let's say they go all the way through, but then they put you through a reduction review, they could reduce you under the new law. So just get it in there now. And Michael Finn, good afternoon. I have a scheduler 100% P&T with 60% for rheumatoid arthritis of the hands. I have loss of use of my right hand. Do I fall under SMCS for this? Thanks. The fall under this would be, to me, that you have a 60% rheumatoid arthritis of your hands. That should be an IU rating in and of itself.
Right.
I'm assuming you have other ratings that go to hopefully combine up to 60%. And if that's the case, then you get SMCS. But just for loss of use of hand, you don't fall under SMCS. You do get a loss of use of an organ, which is SMCK, which is like $130 a month. So that's where you'd be there.
But if you have 100% permanent total, you have a lot of other ratings out there. Can. So if you're not working, remember, you want to make sure that you file for unemployability only related to the 60% for the arthritis, and then use the other for the hand, the SMCS.
Yeah. And if you lose both hands, that's automatic. What, SMCM?
I think.
So that's a huge rating. So unfortunately, if the left hand were to get worse, then you definitely want to put
and your feet, if that starts to happen with your feet.
T. Henry, I'm 10% service connected for mental health and planning on filing a claim for increase. Does my community care provider filling out a DBQ help my case?
Absolutely. Yes.
Go adventuring. How long should I be at 90% for asking for TDIU?
9
Yeah.
Immediately.
Right away.
Yeah.
Per Kidman, good to see you again. Question: can a counselor file a Nexus letter? VA paid for my therapy, but the person I see isn't a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist.
I would have them do it because it can't hurt.
Yeah, it can't hurt. But if it's a Nexus letter, meaning you're not service connected yet, they're probably not going to give that much weight to it. Right. If it's a letter pertaining to your actual symptoms, they're very competent to say that, and they could probably speak to it better than anybody else.
And often these counselors work with a psychiatrist, a doctor, someone that they can refer you to get that Nexus letter. And that's a great place to get it.
William Friedman, I continue to file secondary and HLRs on my back, secondary to both knees. Will the VA eventually change their non-service connected decision? Each time I get a new medical opinion. Thank you. Okay, so I think you need to slow down here a second and look on your supplemental claims, or decisions, hopefully, that you've gotten already from supplemental claims. And you need to say, what are they giving me? What is missing? And by that, I mean, you look under favorable findings, and it should say, of the three, event and service, Nexus, and current diagnosis, do you have a current diagnosis? Do they admit something happened in service? Do they show there's a Nexus?
Well, they're talking about to a service-connected knees, I'm assuming. So it wouldn't have happened in service.
Right. So it wouldn't happen in service. Right. So you want to see what are they saying that already is favorable, and you don't need to prove that anymore. And then you look at what's not there, and that's what you want to prove. So, right. So instead of a nexus of it being related to service, was it caused by your knees?
And so that's the good thing that they gave us when they changed this law, is they are required to tell us all of the favorable things for you. The bad thing is they often don't do it. So you need to, if they haven't done that, that's another basis for appeal. You did not give me findings regarding whether my back, you found a diagnosis for it because it's in the service, it's in the medical records, and you didn't you didn't send me for a CMP exam to see whether it's connected to my back. So you need to, in addition to that, I would look to see, why are they saying that your knees did not cause your back? Because the knees definitely are going to throw your gait off, which is going to throw your back off. And I've seen them be awfully favorable to that. So you want to know, why is it they're saying this? Did they say the back started before the knees? There's got to be something in there that's going to give you a clue. But it sounds like if you've had that many denials, you may need a private doctor to help you with this.
Joanne Ortiz, what does it mean when your rating is 90%, but you're getting paid 100% for TDIU, but it isn't shown as 100%? Basically, what that means is your combined rating itself is 90%. TDIU doesn't increase your combined rating. What it does is bridge your rating up to 100% payment and 100% secondary benefit. So that is correct. You just, if you're showing this to somebody, you just want them to see, oh, it's TDIU. That's why I'm 100%. And you should be entitled to whatever benefits you might be seeking secondary to the compensation.
This is the VA admitting that it is very hard to get a scheduler 100%. So that's why they have the law that if you aren't working and a service-connected problem causes you to be unable to work, and you have like a 60% rating for that or whatever they require, then you can get 100% payment, even though you're not rated at 100%. One of the problems you run into is no one understands this. So if you're trying to get property taxes waived or your car or whatever, they're not going to do that with that letter. You need to call the VA, or if you're online, look under reports, and they should have a letter that says, this certifies this veteran is 100% service-connected disabled. And that's what you take with you. Don't take this other stuff that shows 90%.
Chris B. filed intent to file back in June and forgot all about it. Then did once again just recently, and it gave me you had prior intent to file. Will they use the new one I created or go back to June? If you have filed now, they'll go back to June. You're within that year.
Yeah.
Jace Reyes, I can't really read that. Sorry. I am 100% TDIU with 90% total. I've been diagnosed with CKDLL using community care.
That's chronic kidney disease, stage 2.
Is it worth trying to get a diagnosis added to my 90%?
Well, I think that would give you, is it 40 or 60? That would give you 60%. So that should get you SMCS. So you're not filing for what gave you the 100%. You're filing for a different disability. So I would go for that, definitely.
So if they get SMCS, if they get the kidney loss of use of kidney or kidney dysfunction, then they would go for TDIU on that.
No, they already have TDIU. Okay. So
we're assuming that your TDIU is one disability, though.
Right. And that has nothing to do with the chronic kidney disease. Okay. But regardless, if it's getting bad, I would add that, because that would give you SMCS.
James Cohen, I was upgraded 100% for prostate cancer. I get retested every 6 months for it. I get downgraded due to test results. It takes a letter from my doctor to get 100% back. Why? Cancers themselves are an all or nothing. If you have active cancer, if you have cancer and you're actively treating for it, think like chemotherapy, radiation, some kind of immunosteroid, then you're 100%. If it's not active cancer, if it's in remission, you're at 0%. Now, what they also have to do is rate your residuals. So with prostate cancer, we see these cases all the time where unfortunately it will cause incontinence. It will cause veterans to need to frequently urinate during the day, during the night, to basically not be able to, frankly, be far away from a restroom because of
depression
when they're going to be able to go, secondary depression. So those would have to be rated separately. But with the up and down on what you're seeing here, it's whether you have cancer in an active state.
So right now, I would, if you have depression, if you have erectile dysfunction, if you have anything else that's being caused by this prostate cancer, file for that, get that started. Also in the records, if you have urinary problems, you want to make sure that's very clear. I have to go to the bathroom how many times a night? How many times during the day? I have to wear pads because of leakage. How many times do you change those pads? The VA will give you pads, and that will help
Prove it. Right.
prove that you need it. So right now, hopefully you're going to get in remission from this prostate cancer. And so what you want to be proving is the residuals after that. Okay. Because you can keep 100% depression from this, from how it affects your life. I mean, it's a 50.
Limits you, what you can do, where you can go.
I mean, that's 50 or 70% very easily. So get all that in motion.
Northern Colorado transparency. I was denied for IU, but have been awarded 100% P&T. Does it still make sense to pursue an SMC claim? What are the benefits of any of 100% PTSD versus IU versus schedular versus IU? I don't, unless you have other disabilities that you're rated for or could be rated up to 60%. I don't see a claim here.
Right, because you're telling us the only thing that you have is 100% for PTSD.
And you can't get 100% for PTSD and unemployability for PTSD. Jackie Johnson. Hello, my husband has filed for TDIU, but we still haven't gotten the 214192 form back from his former employer. Is there anything we can do to get this done? He's 70% service connected for PTSD. You know, if you know the employer, if he left on good terms, you can say, hey, will you fill this out? They send it to you. The VA in their manual basically mandates the rater that they send it once and they wait, I think, 60 days and they send it again. If they don't hear back, then they just do the rating without it. So it's not going to hurt his claim, but it will delay it.
If you have the Social Security earnings record, that's always a good thing to turn in. Social Security earnings, everyone has the ability to have, if you paid into the system, to go online, ssa.gov, create an account, and then you can download an earnings record. And what the earnings record is, it's usually a 1 or 2 page document that says, 1974, I paid this much into Social Security and paid taxes, all the way through to date. So whenever you first started working to date, it will show how much you've paid, and that will also show when you stopped working. So that the government, the VA likes that.
Boom, nailed it. Any tips for current active duty as we prepare to retire? A lot of our injuries or issues don't go to medical, so we don't get highlighted or blackballed. Okay, so a couple thoughts here. If you have a problem and you have guys you're serving with now who saw you hurt your back, who saw the fact that you were getting migraines a couple times a week, or saw that you were snoring really, really bad, and then all of a sudden you developed sleep apnea, you want statements from them. Okay, you want to say, hey, can you just write me a statement about what you saw, what you observed, what I was like before that. You also want to look in your medical records. You're saying to us now that you don't have any medical records about this. So at least on your exit exam, you want to say, these were the problems I've dealt with, and go in detail with each one of them. Okay.
Yeah, but before, when you're going to be discharged, I would go in a couple of months before and start complaining about this and say, I've had all this, but I didn't want to get in trouble with the military. They don't like people who have problems. They call us broken. So then you list all of those things. The statements, remember, this is your chance to get statements because you may not see these people again or be able to contact them. So you want their full name, how it is they know you, how long they've known you, in what capacity. Are they your sergeant? Are they your cohort? And what exactly, in their words, did they see or hear or experience? Okay, make it really detailed. Do not have, this is a great guy, he deserves all the help. That's going to look like they're prejudiced. They're trying to help you. You want them to show they're just telling the truth. And then I would also try and get a parent or somebody's phone number. So if you have to contact them again, because they're going to be moving, they're going to be changing, to add to what you have for them. The worst thing in the world is when somebody comes to me and they bring me a statement and it could have been so good and it's not, and now they can't find this person anymore.
Right. Tony Johnson, what should I expect in my BVA video hearing coming up on February 3rd? What is the format? How does it work?
2017.
I've been waiting since 2017.
Wow.
You should expect to be the one to drive the conversation. And by that, I mean the judge will come in, they'll ask general questions, they'll say, what are we here for? And, what can we do? You want to be the one saying, Judge, I was denied for my back. Here's my diagnosis. It should be in front of you in the records from, whatever, when you first filed back in 2017. Here's what my doctor said, how it's related to this incident in service. Here's the incident in service and how I've corroborated it with other evidence from service. You want to be the one to say, here's what's missing, or here's why it should be granted. If it were denied, and a lot of times the rate decisions from the RO, it makes no sense why they're denied. But you want to be the one ready to present the evidence, because the judge most likely 90% of the time has not read your file. Okay. So you just want to say, hey, here's what I got. This is what I should do. Be brief, be to the point. Don't be emotional. But just realize that you need to be the one driving what's going on.
And what Matt said is so important. Veterans are so angry and so frustrated by the time they get to the hearing, they're just all over the place. And the judge just cuts you off mentally. They sit down and start writing something else. Don't let that happen to you. Don't bring your anger in about how long the system takes, how badly you've been treated. What you want to do is, I got 3 things I want to cover. When I was in the service, this is what happened. And if you have service medical records to show it, show that. Now I have this problem. Show your current medical records. And this is a doctor who has reviewed my claim file and my medical records who say they are connected. Make it short and sweet. If you go on and on, I'm telling you, they cut you off mentally and think, oh, this guy goes on and on. You don't want them to do that to you, okay? If you got medals or something that was very positive from the service, I would also just have that at the top of what you're saying. I love the service. I was awarded a Bronze Star or this. That can often affect a judge, their opinion of you, but make it brief. Keep it 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it.
And I will say the judge is not ultimately responsible for your delay. The VA is, and the VA doesn't have a face with it, but you just want to go in there and just, put that frustration aside, maybe go get a punching bag beforehand and get all that energy out, but then just focus on your case.
Remember, this guy's walked in. He has never had your case before. He's done nothing to hurt your case. So get him on your side. And that's by being brief and succinct.
Timothy Robinson, I was denied secondary service connection for mental health for my bilateral knee condition. However, I was service connected and diagnosed with other specific trauma related disorder and chronic adjustment disorder with depressed mood. What am I missing to be awarded for mental health? So you have been service connected for mental health. They went a total different direction, but at this point, it doesn't matter. You applied for service connected compensation. Okay. Whatever they service connect you for in mental health, sometimes they make these names up. It doesn't matter. What matters now is that you show them your symptoms, you show them how bad they are, and you get the proper rating.
Right. Don't waste your time getting a specific diagnosis if you already have one. Waste your time or work on spend your time getting a higher rating. Okay.
And just to be clear, you can't get ratings for multiple mental health conditions.
Well, you can get ratings. You can't get paid.
You can't get paid. Right. So you're only going to get a rating for the most disabling one. So you just want to forget about which ones, just get the most disabling symptoms in there.
And you want to, but what we mean by that, if you have other other stress or traumas, that would cause depression. That would cause other things. So you want to combine them all under whatever the heading is that they've given you.
Forget about the diagnosis.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Focus on symptoms. Nivlak Drof. Why would a CMP examiner give an opinion for direct service connection disability when the contention was filed as secondary?
I don't know. Why fight it? I mean,
if it's positive, don't.
Yeah. Sometimes they see something in the file that maybe you didn't see. And that's why they say, hey, this happened in service.
Or sometimes they can't read and they don't know that they should be looking at a secondary. If they screwed this up, this is a higher level review, and you say to the higher level reviewer, I said this is secondary. They denied me for primary or direct. Send it back.
Yeah. Give me a compensation exam to evaluate me for that.
Monto, finally reviewed my C file. I noticed I should have been awarded back in 2015 for my back, which had gotten worse over time. I have a higher level review call this year. Can I argue for back pay if evidence was there?
What do you mean by I should have been awarded? That would make me think that the doctor gave you the nexus saying this, your back is service connected because of the following reasons. I'm not really sure what you're saying about that though.
Well, the second part I think is a little more clear in that if you have a call for your back this year, I'm sorry, with this higher level review, then yes. If your high level review is on a different issue, then they're really not going to be paying attention to what happened to your back. You're going to have to refile it. But I agree with Carol. We need to see what's going on with the back in 2015. Did they not make a decision? Did you submit evidence within a year of the decision they made? Did you submit evidence they didn't review and it's in the file? Those are all things, that you can look at.
Right.
T.A. Chapman, VA finally looked at my neck and I have severe bone spur pressing against my spinal cord due to symptoms from, let's see, what is that? 2011 EAS 2016.
What is EAS?
I think that's when they got out there. That's when they served the 5-year period.
Oh, okay.
My initial review did look at my medical records. What do I do? So I'm assuming you were denied. I can't actually, I don't even know where to go with you on that. If they denied you, if that's what you're asking, you need to appeal. And again, when you appeal, you need to say, this is what happened in service. Here's the records. This is my diagnosis now. Why isn't the service connected?
So I guess you would file a higher level review, failure to assist in that they didn't look at the medical records. And how do you know that? How do you know they did?
Go back to the first question. Did not what? I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm really not sure about the question. If you could maybe rephrase it.
He said they did not. I'm thinking he said they did not look at my medical records. So they did not look at your medical records. Higher level review. They're in the file. You point out to that adjudicator, hey, this was not reviewed. It's an inadequate exam. Please send it back for.
And you need to point out how you know they didn't look at them. Were they not in the file? Are they part of your VA medical records? That's what I'm not sure about with your question.
All right. Brian, is there anything that can be done with my discharge? I was discharged under don't ask, don't tell, even though I am a straight man.
That's not something.
Yeah, we don't really cover that. I would look for a local university. A lot of law schools now are handling discharge upgrades. I would look for
Stetson Law School.
Stetson Law School does, I think.
There's Yale,
William,
I think.
Yale has one, William and Mary in Virginia. So I would look around and see if you get something from that.
They will do that for free for you. And that's something that they work with where we really don't work with that.
Right. Bob S. 10% service connected for tinnitus and documented sleep disorder in service. Now diagnosed with major depressive disorder and general anxiety disorder and sleep apnea. Can either or both be used to connect secondarily?
Absolutely.
Yes. This is kind of one of my favorite claims.
Yeah.
Because tinnitus, they cap you out at 10%, and VA doesn't want you to think about or know all the secondary problems it can cause. Those are secondary problems it can cause that get you from 10% all the way up to 100. So do file those.
Now, for years watching the VA claims when they didn't have anybody to help them, they got such small, if anything, ratings. And I think a lot of it had to do with they didn't know about secondary service connection. And now since people are learning about them, I think veterans are starting to get the ratings they deserve.
Yeah. Great question. And go ahead and file that. Josh Pryor, is it normal for the VA to schedule your mental health appointments without a rating? I finished my CMP exam and they called me about 2 weeks later to set up an appointment for mental health, but no rating. You're dealing with two different entities here, if you will. You've got the Veterans Benefit Administration. They're the ones dealing with getting you the rating, getting you the service connected benefits. You've got the Veterans Health Administration who would be giving you appointments for a mental health appointment. I don't know if you asked for one of those mental health appointments or not, and they just set it for you.
Or they thought you really needed one, which sounds like might be good for your claim.
Yeah.
So go in and make sure this person knows all the problems that you already told the other person.
Exactly. Danny Rose, I did an intent to file over 8 months ago, but still haven't received my C-file yet. Should I go ahead and upload the medical records from my health account and send them in? Yes.
File
with that, file the claim. Yes.
File the claim.
That's the most important part. Is filing the claim.
File the claim and put down everything that you think you're entitled to. I've had veterans say, well, I start with one claim, and when I get that finished, then I go to the next. Please don't do that. You're just shortchanging yourself.
Yeah. Tom Green, I have shin splints on appeal. However, I've found shin splints to be an inferred claim. Could this rating go all the way back to my first rating, even if I didn't file it? It could. It's pretty unlikely. But I mean, if he filed for his ankle and then the doctor said, well, shin splints, I mean, it's like peripheral neuropathy.
But it doesn't really say that he filed for anything like that. So if he didn't file anything that would, the VA is supposed to consider your claim. So if you file a claim for PTSD, but your claim is really for major depressive disorder, they're supposed to consider that was the claim that you filed. So if you filed a claim for leg pain or knee pain, then that might be something that you could clarify. But I don't really know what you filed in the past.
Yeah. Your claim is what you say it is and what is in the file with that claim. So if it was in there and it was, if you're saying, hey, I got a neck issue, you're on your first claim, I don't see that going all the way back. But if you're saying, as Carol said, there's something wrong with your leg, your ankle, your foot, then there's a possibility. Jamie, I finally got diagnosed with PTSD for combat-related incidents. I'm only getting 30% for anxiety, depression. Should I file a new claim for PTSD or file for increase? You appeal for increase. You don't file a new claim for increase. If you just got that 30%. So, first, when you're getting service-connected compensation, the first thing is getting whatever it is, the diagnosis service-connected. Okay, the VA says, okay, this is related to service. The next things you look at are the rating and the effective date. Okay, so you got that first piece. Forget about what they're labeling. Like we've been saying with mental health claims, you've got a mental health condition related to service. Now look at the rating. If 30% is too low, you appeal that. You either go higher level review and say, look in these records. This is, get the diagnostic codes. This is what the problem was. This is what it should have been rated because it matches a higher level. Or you say they're not in there. VA didn't work it up properly. You file supplemental claim with that new evidence.
In other words, don't file for service connected for PTSD. You're already service connected for anxiety. Try and get that higher. The PTSD is certainly going to make your anxiety higher. So you're getting paid for anxiety, depression, and whatever causes it doesn't matter. Yeah. So, that's what we're trying to say. If you insist PTSD is separate from anxiety, you're just going to get two separate ratings and only pay for the higher of which one. So forget about service connected, go for a higher rating. My mental condition has gotten worse.
No, this is an appeal.
Oh,
my mental condition is worse than which you've
rated before. Here are all the symptoms that I have.
Yeah. Dretzel, I am SMC-L and K. I was in a landmine explosion in the Army. I'm 40% for my latest diagnosis with TBI. My VSO says I should be SMCT, but I got shortchanged. Can you assist? VSO says SMC-R1 at a minimum. Yeah, we do a lot of these SMCT cases now because we find the VA is trying to shortchange.
They don't want to pay them at all.
They don't want to pay them, and a lot of times they'll say, okay, you've got TBI combined with PTSD at 100%. See if they'll go away.
Yeah,
and the difference is, it's about $7,000 a month now.
Yeah,
so
$10,000, and Congress gives these rights to veterans, and they continue to deny them at the VA. Yeah. It is so infuriating. I bet there are very few people who are getting SMCT.
There are. It is not easy, and a lot of people
going to take a long time.
Looks that they should be receiving it, don't, or they just don't meet the law. But we've seen enough to where we review this every week, 5 to 10 of these, and not all of them are going to win, but it's worth looking at least. Yeah. Damian Wallace, thank you both for all you do for vets. Remember, like, share, turn on notifications bell.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for reminding us that. We always forget that.
Yes, please like, share, and turn on notifications.
All right.
Here's one thing I really want to say, because this is something that veterans have almost never gotten in the past. Remember, if you're not working, you have to have, according to the VA, a 60% rating for one thing, or combined 70% with at least 40% for something else, okay? And that's in order to get 100% under unemployability. But that's not all. Let's talk about people who have headaches. The highest rating you can get for a headache is 50%. I have migraines. Migraines are horrible. If you have not been able to work because of the migraines, and your doctors have been talking about that, you haven't been working, you're entitled to that, going back to when that started if you have an ongoing claim. You shouldn't settle for a 50% rating. But the way that these are evaluated, the regional office is supposed to have sent your claim to central office. And the central office is supposed to have looked at your medical records and decided whether or not these headaches keep you from working. Once they make a decision, if it's no, you can appeal that all the way up to the board. These are claims that have not been looked at, used. I am getting so many. I just got another one from a person who he didn't meet that 60% for one thing and 70% for another. And they went back and it went to the central office and they gave him 100% under TDIU back to 2013, where prior to that, he was only getting it 2019. I had one veteran who only had a 30% rating, but it was a physical thing. He could not do his job. And they went back 15 years for a 30% rating on his back. So remember, those are out there, and only you know whether you've had this rating, whether it's kept you from work, and whether the medical records are talking about the fact you can't work because of that. If they do, that's an inferred claim. The VA should have looked at that, but they don't. So you need to know what you've got.
Yeah. They're going to deny you at the regional office. They probably will deny you at the board because they do not have the ability to grant that claim, but they have the ability to deny that claim.
Yes.
So just getting a referral over to the central office can take 2 to 7 years. So you just got to be prepared for that. What Carol, I'm assuming, did on that one case that went back, already had IU from 19 forward. And what I like to do, if I have a migraine case and the person's at 50%, that person's depressed, whether they know it or not. Their whole life has been just been crushed, frankly, under the weight of these migraines. They never know if they're going to be able to go out with their kids. They never know if they're going to be able to go to the grocery store. Forget about work. I mean, they can't be consistent. They never know when they're going to have to go and just retreat into a room. And so what I do on a case like that is I always make sure I'm filing the secondary conditions to bump that person up to 70%. So that while we're trying to go back for the one issue way back and have to go all the way up to central office, we're trying to get that person to unemployability right now. And so what's behind us is almost gravy. But think about the secondary service connected conditions when you're applying for that.
So this person that just got from 2013 to 2019, we had been at the board. The board sent it back to the central office and said, you did not evaluate this to see if he was entitled. At the central office, we now get to see the evaluation that was done by the person who worked it up for the one person who makes a decision. And they recommended that he get the 100%. It was denied by the central office. I filed the appeal in December. To the board, and I already have the approval from the board. They are quick to approve these cases. So look through your case, know your case, and see if you're one of these people.
They're quick to approve it when you're at the very end.
Yeah, at the very end.
Not when you just filed. Yeah. All right. That's our aside. Remy86, good to see you. Hello there. I put in an HLR for an informal conference. VA says there's a decision phase of my claim, but I haven't had my conference. Can they decide without giving me one? They say they're in the decision phase. I mean, again, can they? Yes. Should they? No. If they didn't see it marked, you might want to send in a letter saying I asked for a decision.
A hearing.
Excuse me.
A conference.
Of course, you asked for a decision for a conference. I got to say though, sometimes that is an unfortunate hint that they just don't want to do it, and having the conference could not help you. But yes, if you ask for an informal conference, they should give it to you.
Yeah. You can appeal that if they don't.
Bobby P. Hello. I had a dislocated hip removed by the VA. How do I get them to add it back on?
You're talking, it was severed, I guess. The only way
they currently have that disability is what I
had a dislocated hip removed by the VA. How did that get it added? Okay, my thinking is that even if you've had a dislocated hip, it's going to go out again. It's not going to stay there unless they do surgery. So he would still be service connected for his hip, even if it's at 0. So if they removed it, that to me says they severed the claim, meaning you were never entitled to that.
We need more information there. even if they remove it, meaning like they reduce you to 0, you should still be rated for residuals.
Yeah.
Oh, here it goes. I got my approval and it took 30 days.
Terrific. Congratulations.
All right. Monica Adams, I had breast cancer and was in the Gulf War. PACT Act says reproductive cancers are presumed. How easy will it be to get service connection? Never ask how easy.
The VA.
The VA can screw up. You need to put that claim in right now if you have
Yes.
not, but it should be granted as long as your records say you were in the Gulf and your diagnosis is the breast cancer. That should be granted right away. We deal with appeals, so we see the craziest crap, but hopefully that's one they can get right. You can get on with your life.
Right.
Best of luck to you with that. John H. Miller III, claim remanded by BBA the 21st of September 2021. Regional reopened it 28 January 2022. Can't seem to get status no matter what I do.
Wow. These are ones that happen to us and you wonder what is going on.
Yeah, they go into a black hole. Okay,
Yeah.
You're calling your congressman, you're calling the 800 number every day, senator's office. This is just one where...
Right to the head, Dennis, what's his name?
McLaughlin. Something.
Just right to everybody you can find. Dennis McLaughlin is the head of the VA benefits.
Yeah.
We have cases like this too.
Yeah, I wish I could say there was some magic button to push, but there is not. I mean, these
Right.
cases, it sounds like yours has got lost between the board and the regional office, even though they reopened it. So I would just keep on pushing. London, is it true that filing a FOIA request for rating documents actually freezes your appeal process?
No.
It isn't. Well, I will say this. The BVA is not allowed to make a decision while there's an open FOIA claim. So there's that. But if there's still evidence to be developed, if there's still things to do, the VA still has to do that.
Right, which is where I would think you would be if you're doing this.
Jolly Green, I had asthma when I was a kid and it stopped. I went into the Army, no issue. I went to OIF 3, came back, and asthma came back. I was denied claim. Can I push for a pre-service aggravation for asthma? This is complicated.
Yeah.
So you had a disability, asthma, before service. Okay, that's that. But you said that it stopped. So the DOD, when they brought you in for your enlistment, they put you through an exam. If that examination said that she currently has asthma, she suffers from asthma, then they've noted that, and then you're going to have to show whether. Then we're going to talk about whether it's aggravated or not. If they did not note that you had asthma, or even they noted it but said fully resolved or asymptomatic, then at that point you have what's called the presumption of soundness. And basically that means that you were inducted into the military in a sound fashion. There were no defects with you at all, and they have to accept you as you are. Okay, so that means that whatever you develop during service, they can't say, "Oh, that pre-existed." There's nothing on our part. It was due to what happened before service. They have to show through clear and convincing evidence. Notice I said they, the VA, not you. The VA has to show through clear and convincing evidence that it existed prior to service and that it was not aggravated. So that's two things they got to do. They got to show that it was prior to service. There's basically no debate that it was prior to service, and that it was not aggravated. Okay, that while you were in service, something didn't aggravate. Now we're talking about you being in the Gulf and having asthma. I think it's going to be hard for them to say that in and of itself did not aggravate it. So if it was not shown on your entrance exam, they can't just say that it existed prior to service.
But they do all the time.
But yeah, but that's an appeal, and it's appeal under the law, and it's unfortunately it's a bit complicated.
It is very complicated. It's complicated for the VA. They failed to use the presumption of soundness. They failed to realize they had the burden of proof, not you.
Right.
But the problem is getting them to realize that.
All right. Jack Sandster, explain the 55-year-old rule.
I don't know what that is. Do you?
Sounds like a Social Security thing.
I don't know what that is. I don't know that there is one.
Military VA benefits. DIC.
Oh, okay.
DIC
Right.
50-year.
If you remarry before age 55, then the widow or widower does not get benefits.
Yeah. John Price, for a spouse of a deceased veteran, PACT Act, do they put in for DIC comp? If a veteran did not have service-connected disability or try to service-connect first, prostate cancer and hypertension, stroke. This is a great question, John. This does not apply just to the PACT Act, but if you're a widow or widower, your spouse died due to something related to service, but never had applied for that disability, doesn't matter. Okay, for you to get the DIC benefits, which is basically an ongoing monthly pension, you basically apply and say, my husband died due to hypertension, and this hypertension is related to service. Well, then the VA has to look and see what happened in service. Did he have hypertension? Was one related to the other? It doesn't matter that your husband or your wife had not applied for that disability before.
So you can do that, but ones who did apply can get their benefits all the way back to when they applied before under the PACT Act.
Under hypertension.
Right. That's the great thing they gave them.
But that's only a spouse. It's really bizarre. The vet themselves cannot.
I know. It's crazy.
It's really weird. Okay, we got time for a couple more questions. Let's see what we got here. We got Keaton Green. I'm 80% on VA disability and have Social Security disability insurance. Both are for lower back and PTSD. Haven't worked since 2015. Can my SSDI medical evidence help with TDIU? Yes.
Put the whole decision into evidence so that they know both of the problems that you're service connected for caused your Social Security grant.
Yep. John Pryor again, I've been out of the Navy for less than a year. Is there any way I can get the VA to get a decision sooner than later if me and my fiance are having a hard time paying bills, almost losing the apartment? Yeah, you need to put in any bills that are late. If you have a notice as far as losing your apartment for, from the landlord.
Eviction, foreclosure, utilities shut off, any of those things, put it in. This is my income. This is the problem, and ask for an expedite. There's actually a form that you can use for that. And I think it's on our list. I can't remember which one it is.
Yeah, our list is always growing. All right, let's get one more.
And remember, if you don't use the form, sometimes they don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, they like their forms.
They like their forms.
They find safety in forms. Okay, Terry Welch. I'm 70% disabled for PTSD. I filed a claim for sleep apnea secondary to PTSD and was denied. Is it common to win on appeal? It is a hard claim to win. VA hates sleep apnea secondary to PTSD for no reason I can discern.
And they won't approve it at the regional office. You have to go to the board.
Yeah, and you're going to need a good medical opinion.
Yes.
Too. All right, folks, that's what we have time for today. We appreciate you coming on, sharing good news, good questions. We will be back again next week and look forward to talking to you.